The good news is we're all in this together. And when we see we're together, we can work things out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey, the famous Tom Fennell,
in the flesh,
and the very famous Guy Payne.
also in the flesh.
Also in the flesh.
Not a cardboard.
Guy is the CEO, head?
Executive director.
Executive director of SEON, which stands for?
Sustainable Energy Outreach Network.
Okay, there you go. Now, I could have explained that, except that I forget what SEON stands for. But I know what it is, and I know the name SEON. I just forget the initials for some reason. So I want to put Southeast in there.
I know.
Everybody does that. Okay. I guess we should just get underway here. Every day I go to the internet and early in the morning and find whatever news I can of energy and climate change that has appeared in the previous 24 hours. And I make a collection of articles, a synopsis, brief synopsis, 50 words typically, or 55 of each, with a link to the original article. And they're assembled into a posting that goes up at my blog, geoharvey.com. And Tom and I get together, sometimes with guests, and Guy is our guest today, on Thursday mornings, and talk about the 20 or so that we think are the most important. We've got 22 of them today. Although
22.
One of them is going to be super short because it's just about Dong changing its name to I forget what the new one is, but it's got
Ørsted.
Ørsted. Okay. I knew it was something with a slash through the O. Anyway, so we talk about energy starting with the previous Thursday. So this show is talking about the dates September 28th through October 4th, and we have a lot to talk about this week, and a story has been developing here, which is really interesting, and it kind of is unfolding from a number of fronts. Some of them we will talk about in this week's show, some of them will be next week's show. Today there was a lot of stuff about the International Energy Agency talking about solar being the biggest new production facilities being built. Solar is the most important now. It has overstepped coal, and it looks like renewables. The agency said that one of the things they said was the age of expensive renewable power is over.
The writing is on the wall.
The writing is on the wall, and it's so strange. I mean, you've got these people who are market-driven, conservative Republicans, all of a sudden deciding that they want subsidies for fossil fuels and nuclear.
You mean more subsidies?
More subsidies.
Yeah.
And then you've got the American Wind Energy Association saying we don't need, what we want is a market-driven system.
We don't need those stinking subsidies.
Oh. And now the Republicans and the Tea Party people and so forth are going to have to really show their cards so that we know, are they there for a free market, or are they there for support of the fossil fuels industry, which a lot of them clearly
follow
are.
The money. You know,
Absolutely.
that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. So we should start. We've got a picture of an airplane coming up.
Well, I did want to mention that we can't cover some of these articles in depth.
Yep.
Because we don't have enough time. And some of them are really worth looking at. So, George, there's a link at the end of each.
There is indeed.
How do we get it?
Okay, go to geoharvey.com. Tom and I will try to keep you apprised of the date of the article that we're talking about. You go to geoharvey.com and you can click on the calendar or just keep scrolling down until you get to that date and look for the articles at that date. And now we're starting with one from CNN on Thursday, September 18th. I'm sorry, 28th.
Yeah, I'll try to alert you if there's something worth looking at that particular.
Thursday, September 28th.
Thursday, September
28th.
20th.
I said 28th. I said 18th.
And we got a picture
I don't know
coming
why.
up
We've
here.
got one, and I've already
here we
put it
go.
on the.
Let's look at the, let's look
There's
at the picture.
an interesting jet airplane. What do you got for a title, Tom?
The airliner, your airliner may be flying electric within a decade. I think that's a little bit
Optimistic?
how would you say, optimistic.
Well,
but it's coming.
It's coming. Major European air carrier EasyJet announced that it's teaming up with U.S. startup Wright Electric to build an all-electric airliner. The aircraft they have in mind could handle short routes of 335 miles or less. Think of New York to Boston or London to Paris. EasyJet said a new craft would cover 20% of its passenger journeys.
There's a link here on the. If you go to the link, you'll see 5 new planes you'll be flying soon.
Yeah.
None of them are electric, but they're neat.
Okay.
And it says electric planes will be a game changer for airlines.
Yep.
Because fuel is one of their biggest costs.
Yeah, why don't you put that picture back up? I wanted to comment very quickly on this.
Why not?
The jet in this jet airliner has an intake that is not circular the way that typical jets today
It's
do.
oblong.
It's
You can see it in the picture.
Yeah, it's rectangular. It's the area right next on the wing, right next to the fuselage, between the fuselage and that red,
That aileron or whatever.
whatever it is, and it consists of a bunch of little
electric motors.
electric fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So should we move on, Tom?
Yeah, let's.
We've got
I think we've covered this one.
Yep, we've got an article from the Hartford Courant.
Yeah, this is an interesting one too.
It is indeed.
U.S. courts taking climate change seriously. This is really a very important one. Really.
It is indeed. Hallelujah, the thing starts out. The judicial branch of the federal government is finally getting serious about climate change. No longer can the executive branch and the legislative branches cave in to pressure to avoid the inconvenient truth that climate change adaptations will be hugely expensive.
Repeat that last sentence. It's important.
No longer can the executive branch and the legislative branches cave in to pressure to avoid the inconvenient truth that climate change adaptations will be hugely expensive.
The floodgates have opened for a rapidly building wave of climate litigation.
A rapidly
It's coming.
building wave.
It's coming, guys.
Absolutely. Well, it's already going. You know, we have those kids in Oregon.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that a little further on.
Yeah. Okay.
Revisit that.
Revisit.
Oh,
Our next item is from the National Geographic, and we have a mess here to show you.
Do we have a picture? No, we don't.
We have a picture of Hurricane
Yeah, there is a picture.
Debris.
Where? Oh, there it is.
Hurricane Debris.
Fine show. Hidden costs of climate change running to hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
Extreme weather made worse by climate change, along with the health impacts of burning fossil fuels, has cost the U.S. economy at least $240 billion a year for the last 10 years, a report found. The report does not include the recent 3 major hurricanes or 76 wildfires in western states, which are estimated to cost over $300 billion. Did you know that we've lost a half of our wheat crop this year to drought?
I knew we lost a lot. I didn't know it was half of it. Wow.
That's what I've read.
Stock up on bread, folks. The prices go up.
It doesn't last all that well, unfortunately.
I want to comment on this one from National Geo. It's a very interesting, in-depth article.
Yes.
And there's some pretty good stuff in it that you can click on. For example, there's a video of climate change with Bill Nye,
Yes.
which is interesting to watch. It's about 4 minutes. And then in the middle of the article is 40 photographs of Harvey's destruction.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, bing, 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 bing.
Hurricane Harvey was a 25,000-year event.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you hear about 500-year storms and
Well,
100-year storms and so forth.
it's a 25,000-year event based upon the past.
Yes, well, that's true.
The next one's going to come in
But
less than 25,000
Yes.
years.
The part of the problem with it is that huge areas of Texas that are not in flood zones got flooded.
Got flooded, yeah.
And so areas which in big hurricanes in the past never would have got all that wet were flooded out. Okay, you set?
Okay, we got the next one here.
Okay.
Let me try
This
it.
is from Renew Economy, Friday, September 29th.
Trump officials have no clue how to rebuild Puerto Rico's grid, but we do. This is also an informative article, and there's more that we're going to cover later on in the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Microgrids built around cheap renewable power and battery storage are now the fastest and cheapest way to restore power, and they build resilience. Energy Secretary Rick Perry is proposing small modular nuclear reactors, which might come in the 2020s. What is going through these people's minds?
Well, you know, this is political, really, but he's not realizing, or at least not saying, that these small nuclear plants are incredibly expensive.
I guess. How are you going to pay that out of the gross domestic product of Puerto Rico?
That's not even possible.
How is this going to be done? I sat
is
there
all
and I
talk.
thought, these small modular reactors aren't even going to be tested for another 5 years. And then I realized, no, he was talking about old model small nuclear reactors, such as are used on ships.
Yeah.
And
but that's
my
not what they're coming out
suggestion
with.
is, why didn't they just take an aircraft carrier, which typically has 2 nuclear reactors totaling about 550 megawatts,
And park it off to San Juan.
take it to San Juan and hook it up to the grid?
Duh.
I mean, they did that. The Lexington.
But we do.
The Lexington, which was CV2. CV2.
that's an
in
old one.
1930.
Okay.
They took that to Tacoma.
Do they?
They had a drought in the area, and
When did they do this?
1930.
Oh, way back.
Way
Oh,
back.
wow.
And they took the Tacoma, which had, a big electric plant on board.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they made the thing go. You can't have a drive shaft that goes halfway up an aircraft carrier.
No, I don't
So
think-
what they do is they make the power in
They
one
generate
place,
electricity.
and then they use it back in the stern. They have big
Yeah,
motors.
they run wires.
They run wires. Technology. Okay.
There's an interesting picture in this article. It's also an informative article.
Yep.
It's nighttime satellite photographs showing Puerto Rico before and after the
Oh,
storm.
it's sad. It really is sad. It's like before the storm, they had a really bad power grid that was down half the time, but it at least kept lights on in
But at
a
least
few
it was a
places.
power grid.
At least it was a power grid. After the thing went down, all they've got is a bunch of batteries. I mean, you can see that there are lights on in Puerto Rico, but not many of them.
And I'm sure, they're all locally generated.
The people in Puerto Rico need help, and they don't need to be told that that they're not working hard enough. Okay, our next item is from One Step Off the Grid.
Well, we ready for lunch? Battery-powered pizza.
Battery-powered pizza.
Beating
I was
network,
wondering where your comment came from.
beating network squeeze with 10 Tesla Powerwalls. This is an interesting article,
It's an
too.
interesting article. A Domino's pizza franchise
got a
in
picture
western
up here.
Sydney suburb of Plumpton. I should say that again. Plumpton.
Plumpton.
Has laid claim to the world's largest commercial Tesla Powerwall 2 battery storage system after installing 10 of the U.S. Company's 13.5 kilowatt units, and not to store rooftop solar power, but to get around the expense of fixing an existing network supply problem.
Yeah, they're
That's
building
interesting.
a new pizza parlor.
Yeah.
There isn't enough juice in the grid. So they said, forget about the grid.
We'll run with batteries. So what they're doing is they're charging the batteries when the place isn't open
At night,
at night.
yeah.
And then
Running all day long.
running the thing during the daytime with a combination of grid power and what they get out of the batteries.
And it cost them half as much as it would have cost them to upgrade
That's the key.
grid.
That's the important thing. It's cheaper to put the batteries in and run from the batteries than it was to upgrade their grid supply.
Will
anyway,
wonders never cease.
Will
huh?
wonders never cease. Our next item is from Clean Technica.
Aha. Northeast and Midwest swelter in epic September heat wave.
This is,
And is there a picture here?
no.
The picture is in the article, isn't
Yeah.
it?
The National Weather Service reported that the heat wave in the Midwest and Northeast, calling it, quote, the only occurrence of, on record, of 7+ consecutive 90-degree Fahrenheit days entirely within September, end quote, on record. It may have happened because of the behavior of the jet stream was impacted by climate change, causing an increasing number of long-lasting events.
I have seen this picture that I'm referring to that's in this article. I've seen it elsewhere. It's a map of the eastern U.S. That's color-coded to the temperature.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's kind of scary because everything north of, I guess, Nashville and east of Chicago is deep red in that map.
Well, what they're saying here is that the jet stream, and the jet stream is a flow that kind of goes, and it changes its course a lot.
Yeah, it moves around a
very,
bit.
very often, but it separates colder air to the north from warmer air to the south a lot of the time. And if it doesn't move, that means that you can have a heat wave. And if the climate is such that the jet stream is tempted not to move a lot, that means your heat waves get longer.
So the weather stalls.
The weather stalls.
Moving like it usually does, it stalls over someplace. And if it's hot, you're getting hot. If it's wet, you're getting wet. Huh?
It sounds like a song you're writing.
By the way, this map tells us that we had record high temperatures set in Burlington, Buffalo, Minneapolis, Green Bay, Ottawa, and northern Maine.
There you go.
It was pretty widespread.
Okay, we are up to Saturday, September 30th,
Yeah,
and we have an
picture
article
here.
from Clean Technica.
Nice picture of old San Juan here.
Yeah, this is old San Juan
Kind of neat.
before the grid went down. Anyway,
Okay. Got too many computers to play with here. A call for help for Puerto Rico.
since
By
Hurricane
yours truly.
by yours truly. Since
George
Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico on September 20th, the island is entirely without grid power. By the way, now I'm reading that 10% of the population has actually got power restored. It faces the prospect of remaining without grid power for months. And for many people in Puerto Rico, that is still true. It is appalling that citizens of the United States are so exposed to hardship, but we could crowdfund microgrids in large numbers and get them set up quickly.
Well, since you wrote this, let's hear your comment on it, because this is a good idea.
Well, this was something that I put into Clean Technica, and it happened that I was not the only person to think of this. Although what's happening is not through crowdfunding. What is happening is corporations are doing this. Tesla is doing it. And,
Yeah, they are.
And
We'll talk about that later.
several of them are doing it. But the idea that I had was, you pick a town in Puerto Rico. The cost of setting up a microgrid to supply essential services to that town is small enough that a town or city, small city in the United States, in the rest of the United States, because Puerto Rico is in the United States, could help. You could have like these sister communities set up,
Sister cities.
sister cities,
yeah.
and just call to for the citizens. And if we had, for example, a little village in Puerto Rico, the residents of Brattleboro could put together a crowdfunding scheme that would supply power, and it would take very little to get solar panels and batteries and
Absolutely.
so forth there and set up. If they were designed to be done that way, the whole thing could be done in days. The big challenge would be getting it to them.
Well, technologically, this could turn out to be a blessing in disguise
For Puerto Rico.
for Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Because as far as the grid is concerned, if they do it right, it's going to be all distributed power sources
Yeah.
throughout the island.
Yeah.
You're not going to put big power lines in there.
Although Rick Perry wants small modular reactors.
Yeah, right.
And that would imply big grid lines.
Big grid lines.
You know,
yeah,
I mean, the putting in the small modular reactors implies a huge investment in building a new grid.
Oh yeah.
Putting in a
absolutely.
microgrid is a minor investment.
And it's all done locally.
It's all done locally. Yep.
I mean, that is the best solution, but money talks.
Yes, that's true.
And sometimes, it's more important to collect a profit on this thing than it is to solve the problem.
Our next item is also from Clean Technica,
Uh-huh.
and this one it just struck me as so bizarre.
This one is, here we go.
Here we
we
go.
go again with Perry. Rick Perry's energy department plans to prop up coal plants with direct subsidies. Duh!
Oh my gosh.
In a blatant money grab for the coal industry, Rick Perry's energy department is pushing for direct subsidies to dirty, uneconomical coal-fired power plants. So much for, quote, the government shouldn't pick winners and losers, end quote. So much for, quote, let the market forces decide, end quote. According to Rick Perry, dirty plants are needed as for security.
Bingo. Here it is.
Security for whom, please? I bet I can name two guys who live in Wichita.
Here it is in a sentence. Coal and nuclear power tends to come from very expensive plants that are no longer cost competitive. But it's good to have them around just in case we need them.
Just in case we need
Like during a heat wave.
You know,
So, we gotta have subsidies.
we reported a couple of weeks ago about a study from MIT that said that fossil fuels are killing 200,000 people in the United States every
We've
year.
talked about that before. We'll touch base on it here a little bit later.
Do you know how many people, American servicemen, were killed in the Second World War?
Less than that.
275,000. But that's for the whole war, 4 years long.
Yeah.
We are killing people faster today by a factor of about 3 than servicemen were being killed
So
during
we're
the
doing
Second
this
World
every
War.
year.
We do it constantly, and people don't realize it because it's normal.
Well, unfortunately.
And what does that mean? It means it's normal to get cancer and die. It's normal to get emphysema and die. It's normal to die of asthma. It's normal to die of a heart condition or liver cancer or whatever. And all of these things can be caused or exacerbated by polluted air.
Well, absolutely. We've discussed this in depth in the past, and it's a valid thing.
Yeah, it's
People
valid.
just don't think about it.
So let's support the people who are doing that? I don't think so. Let's throw them all in jail.
And here's another boondoggle.
Another boondoggle from Platts.
U.S. offers $3.7 billion loan guarantees for Georgia nuclear project.
The U.S. Department of Energy has offered conditional loan guarantees worth $3.7 billion to help save efforts to build 2 nuclear reactors in Georgia, bringing the total federal backing for the delayed and over-budget project to $12 billion. The guarantees will go to 3 of 4 owners of the plan to add 2 1,150 megawatt reactors at the Vogtle site in Georgia.
I bet.
Do you know where is that relative to the ocean, relative to?
You know,
know?
Guy, honestly, I don't know. I think it's in the northwest corner of Georgia, but I might be wrong.
I think it's relatively near the ocean, just because I looked at the
Aha.
the utilities that are involved.
I'm thinking
roof
of
power.
I'm thinking of TVA maybe. I may be thinking of a TVA plant.
I don't think it's anywhere near TVA.
Yeah, well, I'm saying when I
Oh,
said
okay.
Northwest Georgia, I might have been thinking of a TVA plant.
Well, it could very well be in northwest Georgia. No, northeast Georgia.
It could be
Yeah.
in Northeast Georgia.
I think
but-
it's in the east somewhere.
well, be that as it may.
It's not going to happen.
If it's near the sea, it's near the sea so they can use ocean water for cooling.
Well,
Which
it's definitely got to be near water.
yeah, and if they're using ocean water for cooling, they're putting it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, honestly, I don't think I'm looking at, in my own mind, the idea that maybe we should be moving all of the nuclear reactors, all of the oil plants, and all of the chemical plants that are within a few miles of the sea inland, because of
the ocean's rising.
oceans rising. I mean, Oyster Creek several years ago, I guess it was during Hurricane Sandy, the waters rose to the point where Oyster Creek's was within inches, a couple of inches, of having seawater overwhelm its barriers.
Now, where's Oyster Creek?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
This is the storm that took out the roller coaster in
Yeah.
a few miles above Oyster
Sandy.
Creek.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, they were prepared in the sense that they were closed down, so it probably would not have produced a meltdown or anything like that. But
We would have closed it.
it would.
Would
Well,
close
Oyster
it.
Creek is closing, and it may even close earlier than they anticipated, which was in
Well,
2018.
this Georgia project is not likely to happen anyhow. The main contractor, the designer of the plant, is Westinghouse, and they went bankrupt.
Although this plant, unlike the one in South Carolina, is still being built
So far.
So far.
So far.
But the utility is saying they're not altogether sure what they want to do with it, and they haven't come out and said, "Oh, thank you so much. $3.7 billion is all we need to get going." It's
Well, they need a lot more than that.
well, it's way behind time. Move on.
Yeah.
We are up to October
Got a
1st.
nice picture here.
We have a picture here. This is an old picture. It's not an October 1st picture. This is from Clean Technica as well.
Fossil fuel industry has cost USA nearly $2.5 trillion over the last decade. That's $240 billion per year.
The fossil fuels industry has cost the U.S. around $240 billion every year for the last decade through the effects of extreme weather and air pollution, according to a new study from a nonprofit Universal Ecological Fund. But that figure represents the average. This year, the bill for damage is estimated at approaching $300 billion already. And again, we talked about this earlier, and we're just back to the same, you know, different people, same values.
Yep.
So should we just go on?
Well, we're talking about how come it's so expensive? Well, we got wildfires in the west.
Wildfires.
We got hurricanes in the east.
Hurricanes,
1-2 punch.
1-2 punch. But another thing which is deadly, deadly, deadly is the air pollution that this is producing, which is making people sick, which is killing people, 200,000 people a year. The pollution from burning 1 gallon of gasoline costs somebody $1.30 in health effects.
But we don't want to think about that.
We don't want to think about that. We all want to continue just driving our gas guzzlers and so forth. But anyway, should we move on?
Yeah, we got another one coming up that's kind of sleazy too.
Yeah, this is from Huma Carrier.
The real estate industry blocks sea level warnings.
This is scary. This is really scary because what it means is that people are being had. A storm of scientific information about sea level rise threatens the most lucrative commission-boosting real estate properties along the U.S. coastlines. But some real estate lobbyists are teaming up with climate change skeptics to block public access of sea level rise predictions and ensure that the coastal planning is not based on science.
Well, shorefront properties are in high demand. But if they're going to flood, nobody's going to want them.
They're going to flood.
They don't want anybody to know that.
They don't want anybody to know it. And you know, like the state of Louisiana told the people in what is the name? Cameron County, or Cameron Parish, in southwestern Louisiana.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, your parish is likely to disappear in the next 35 years, and
They still voted for Trump.
they voted for Trump before that. Cameron Parish voted more heavily for Trump than any other county in the United States. A parish in Louisiana is the equivalent of a county elsewhere. And they were told, you're going to have, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move. And they don't like hearing that. But they would like, if they're going to move, to make sure that whoever buys the property from them doesn't know. We're seeing probably the biggest scam ever developed. And I mean, if you've seen the movie The Big Short, and you think about this thing that they were doing that caused basically a worldwide economic meltdown, this thing that's going on now is far worse. And it's unfortunately going to end because it's going to end badly, because climate change is actually happening. I mean,
No, it's a Chinese plot.
it's a Chinese plot. Hurricane Harvey was a 25,000-year event.
Yep.
It was followed in less than 2 weeks by the most powerful hurricane ever to develop over North Atlantic waters,
Yep.
which was followed in less than 2 weeks by a Hurricane Maria, which had lower central pressure than either of those two.
And low pressure relates to intensity.
Right, and Hurricane Maria wiped out the grid in Puerto Rico. So in a month, we had 3 of these monsters. And Donald Trump says, oh no, we've had bigger problems, storms than these. It's a scam.
Why, Joe?
Yeah.
Well, come a little closer to home here.
Yes.
We got a picture coming
We have a
up.
picture.
I'll get the picture up
And you
here.
know, if when you see this picture, everybody, if you want to see an article about these guys, the Belted Galloways, you don't have to remember the name Belted Galloway. Go to Wikipedia, put into the search that you're looking for an Oreo cow, and it'll take you to the Belted. Takes
These
you right
cows
to
are
it.
neat. There's a small farmette or so on Route 30 around in towns in Newfane.
Yeah,
That's got about 6 of these.
of the Oreo
Well,
cows.
there's 2 versions of these. There's full-size cows and there's miniatures.
Miniature
And
Belted
these guys have
Galloways.
these miniatures.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're
Did you know
neat.
that
They're not-
there is such a
not
thing
as
as
big as a large dog.
there is such a thing as a Shetland cow,
Yeah.
believe it or not. But you know, I was tempted to put in a picture of a Highlander, but you know,
Uh-huh.
these things I just
So
thought.
they're even smaller, I think.
Well,
Well,
some of them are,
the-
and
the
some of them are
Highlanders are huge.
unbelievably big.
Are they really?
They're huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Those horns are huge.
We had a set of Highlanders down the street from where I lived in Massachusetts, down near Plymouth.
Yeah.
And the bull, I think, was at the shoulders about 6 feet.
Wow.
This
That's
thing
a
was
large cow.
gigantic.
Well, it's a large
Just gigantic. And the Highland cows are said to be just as sweet and gentle as you can possibly imagine, unless you get between them and the calf, in which case they act like a mother bear. But
Well,
nevertheless.
why are we talking about cows anyhow?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you.
Ah,
Methane emissions from cows is worse than thought.
yes.
And
You know,
there's some solutions.
there are solutions. U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Joint Global Change Research Institute, and the U.S. Department of Energy have just completed a study that shows problems of methane emissions coming from cattle are worse than previously thought. There may be 2 possible solutions. One is to stop eating beef, and the other is to feed the cows seaweed.
That's an interesting thing. Well, first off, methane from cows accounts for about 20% of all global methane emissions. So
Yes,
this is serious.
This is serious.
This is serious.
Yes.
The
Half of
seaweed
that.
was
That is hard to
seaweed
believe.
Yeah.
seems to have been found by accident.
Have you ever been around cattle?
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed how much they belch? They have this incredible, beautiful, resonant belch. It's amazing. And and when they do that, they're letting out methane.
I didn't know belching was methane.
Well, their
Yeah,
their
that's the
belching
biggest
is
source.
methane. You can
Okay.
also get methane from the manure.
Yeah.
But the belching is a huge source of methane because their first stomach, the one in which they break down the cellulose, they don't break down the cellulose, it's microbes. And those microbes break down the cellulose. And you know what else does the same thing, and it's just as serious, is termites.
Is that so?
Yeah, they make methane. So this is something that, you know, it's natural, but nevertheless, it's not natural to. all right, human beings are part of nature, so it's part of nature that human beings raise beef. What can I say? I eat beef, but I've been reducing the amount that I've been eating quite
A
a
little
lot.
takeaway here about stopping eating beef. I mean, it can be a personal choice now. I mean, there are people doing it
Yeah.
for various reasons. But there are also developments over there where they can duplicate beef
Yes,
from vegetable sources.
yes.
And in some cases, like hamburger meat, you're not going to know the difference.
Well, there's the other thing too, which is the eating seaweed. Because a farmer in Nova Scotia noticed that the cattle who eat seaweed belched less and had better health.
And they were healthier, yeah.
And so there's been studies. In fact, we talked about one of these in one of our shows several months ago. There have been studies indicating that feeding a small amount of seaweed, it's just like 1 or 2% of the diet, alters the what's going on in that first stomach enough that you get a huge reduction, like a 95% reduction in the amount of methane that the cow is producing. So there's a lot of scientific research going into this.
There's something else
Fascinating.
that the article mentions. There's a red algae that cows can eat.
Yeah,
Very small amounts.
yeah, that's what I was just talking about.
And they reduce the methane tremendously.
Huge amounts. And the algae, by the way, is also used in cuisine, human cuisine. It's very popular in Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
That particular
red
one,
algae.
Yeah, I forget the Hawaiian name for it. It's like
Would not be the same red algae as in Lake Champlain.
no,
Probably
not the same. I can guarantee it's not the same. Okay, we should go on. We're up to
Yeah.
October 2nd, which is a Monday, and we've got an item from Energy Voice. We can go through this one really quickly.
Well, we've talked about Dong before.
Dong, that's right.
Dong to change name to reflect status as a renewables developer.
Dong Energy, an oil and gas operator that shed its assets to focus on green projects, said its name doesn't fit anymore. The name stands for Danish Oil and Natural Gas, and it's an acronym that works both in English and in Danish. The new name, Ørsted, references an innovative Danish scientist, Hans Christian Ørsted, who discovered electromagnetism in 1820. It's kind of like naming a car company after Tesla.
Yeah, this is an analogy
Analogous?
there.
That's right.
This guy Ørsted was important
He
because
was.
he discovered that an electrical wire carrying current had a magnet. Became a magnet.
Yeah,
And that's the basis of motors and all sorts of
all
stuff that we're
kinds
doing
of stuff.
today.
Yep. The Tesla cars are based on his discovery.
To a great degree.
great degree.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go on to the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah, good nice.
We have a
A
picture
nice
here.
picture here.
Nice
I don't know if
picture. It's
not
a
a
scary
very nice
picture.
one or not, but it's
It's
a
not
picture.
nice.
Let's pull it up and take a look at
We
it.
have a revolting picture for you.
Wow.
Doesn't that look scary?
It is scary.
Yep.
What the Trump administration doesn't understand about wildfires.
The
That's
major,
very interesting. I didn't understand it either.
yeah, the major fires erupting across the West this year have burned through 8 million acres and $2 billion. It seems the right time to carefully assess wildland fire, its climate drivers and forest health consequences. But the administration is blaming, guess who? Radical environmentalism.
Well,
That fire is because of radical environmentalism.
Well, here's their logic. Radical environmentalists, in quotes, have scuttled timber sales that would have removed trees and reduced ignition sources. But the scientists say wildfires are not like campfires. They are mainly driven by extreme weather conditions, not by fuels.
Yeah, and
So he's off base on what he's saying.
right. And when was the last time you went into an area that had been clear cut?
I haven't in a while.
Is all of the wood removed?
No.
When logging is done, is all of the wood
No.
removed? So
Well,
what
if
have you got
if
left?
If you scientifically log, you're going to leave all the trees above a certain size so you can log again.
If you scientifically log, you're not going to be doing what they're doing out west.
No.
And at least not in a lot of places.
And in the south too.
Yeah.
They got
And
these
what they
pine
do is
forests.
they leave behind fuel.
You mean logs laying on the ground? And
Well, branches,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
not taken
Yeah.
away. It's fuel.
stuff? It is fuel.
And it's fuel of dead trees now that's lying on the ground instead of living branches of trees that are way up in the air. And typically what happens with wildfires, when they're running through at ground level, they burn the fuel that's on the ground. Bark doesn't burn easily.
So they're burning all these branches.
So if they
That have fallen.
burn through a forest floor, they're burning leaves, they're burning branches, they're burning stuff on the forest floor, and the fire never gets up into the tops of the trees.
Yeah.
That's what the firefighters call crowning, and that's why that's so scary when they talk about forest fires crowning.
Crowning.
Yeah, they're talking about the fire getting up into the tops of the trees.
Okay.
And that's really destructive. Well,
So let me back up. Who are they saying are the radical environmentalists?
People
and
who-
what are they doing?
people who oppose logging are causing the trees not to be removed, which leaves fuel in the forests, so the forest fires are worse. This is a glib assessment, which happens to be absolutely wrong.
The reason I'm asking that
Yeah.
is what I've just come to become more passionate about is statements like that. Nobody follows up with the kind of probing Socratic questions that uncovers the depth of one's knowledge, the depth of the data, the depth of the information behind those assumptions and accusations. It absolutely frustrates me when I hear stuff like that. And I know we're not in disagreement, and people are allowed to get away with that.
Some people are allowed to get away in some circles.
Yeah.
But the fact that the Trump administration would come up with with a statement like that, it raises a red flag right from the get-go, because, we're talking about a president of the United States who can start a sentence with one premise and end the sentence with the opposite premise. So anything that Donald Trump says or his administration says is suspect right from the get-go.
Well,
But-
Stuff
the
when you
adminis-
can't trust anything coming out of an administration.
Yes.
And we talk about leadership.
The
Yes,
administration is definitely anti-science. I mean, it's political.
absolutely. We got to get
Okay.
going.
We got another
Yep,
one coming
sorry
up
about
here.
that.
That's okay. No, that's.
This one will be quick because we're going to do it again a little bit later.
I like
Tesla
hearing you
power
say that.
walls
Yeah?
plus solar panels sent to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. This is from Clean Technica. In a humanitarian effort to help Puerto Rico's devastated population, one of the companies stepping up is Tesla. Tesla is sending hundreds of its Powerwall battery systems to be paired with solar panels, Bloomberg reports. I believe Tesla is sending both, the solar panels and the batteries.
I think you're right.
The joint systems will help the battered island territory restore electric power. Some of the systems are already there.
Bingo.
Bingo. There
We'll
you
talk
go.
about this again in a little while.
Yep. Our next item is from it's still October 2nd. This is from Green Biz.
What civilians can learn from military investments in solar. This is significant
This
too.
is big. This is big.
Without electricity from civilian power plants, the U.S. military could be crippled. In January, the U.S. Department of Energy begged for new authority to defend against weaknesses in the grid in a nearly 500-page grid study report, warning that it's only a matter of time before a massive grid failure.
One takeaway from that report, or from a report about the report, is that distributed renewable energy is best for a long-lasting solution. And solar photovoltaic systems are the best because they're easy to maintain, can be located almost anywhere, and don't need to be refueled.
And not only that, but they can be put up very, very fast.
That they can be, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking weeks rather than years.
Yes. Guy, were you going to say something?
Well, I think something that is not referenced a lot is the amount of research and interest and commitment that the military has.
Oh, yeah.
It is huge.
It's huge.
Well, energy is very significant.
I mean, they're tired of having their troops killed because of fossil fuel.
That's right.
And
Energy is very significant and
so-
important to them.
absolutely. And I don't think that's talked about or referenced much.
Not much.
So
Not
that
as,
was
not as much as it
they're
could
a
be.
real leader in,
Yes.
in looking at.
Yes. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, October 3rd. We have a picture here,
got a
and this
picture
is an
coming up
item
here.
from Think Geoenergy. No relation to Geo Harvey.
That is the University of Utah up there. Looks kind of pretty.
It does.
University of Utah to source electricity from a geothermal plant in Utah.
The University of Utah is finalizing agreements to supply 50% of its electricity from renewable energy sources. A joint proposal from Circ Energy and Berkshire Hathaway Energy Renewables is to provide 20 megawatts of geothermal energy and 10 megawatts of solar energy, reducing the university's greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. Now, obviously they use more energy than just electricity, which is why a
but the
50%.
geothermal is there and they're using it.
And they're using
No?
it.
I mean,
yeah,
it just makes sense.
it does. Should we move on from
Yeah,
that?
we're going to hit this one, which is just a sort of an elaboration of something
Of the
we just
previous
touched
one,
on.
yes. This is from Utility Dive.
Tesla pledges hundreds of Powerwall battery packs for Puerto Rico. This is a key article. This is
Yeah.
important.
Tesla has promised to send hundreds of battery storage packs to help Puerto Rico, which is almost entirely without power after Hurricane Maria devastated the island 2 weeks ago. That is 2 weeks prior to October 3rd. According to Bloomberg, about 5% of the grid is already operating. The New York Times reports it could be as long as 6 months before power is fully restored.
That's optimistic.
It is, but I read today that 10% of the people have power now.
Well, that's a step in the right
It
direction.
is.
Well, Tesla's pledge here highlights a growing conversation from power sector experts over the need to boost grid resilience using distributed energy.
Yeah.
Duh.
Duh.
Such as solar plus storage and microgrids.
Right.
And
Duh.
here is kind of a takeaway. Some, such as Tesla, seek to help. Others seek to profit.
Well, yeah. Okay. Our next item is from North American Wind Power.
Here's where we can build offshore wind. Unfortunately, the article doesn't have a map, but it's an interesting article.
Well, it's off the coast of New York,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's about New York.
which means the area south of Long Island or possibly in the Great Lakes.
No, they're talking about the.
They're talking about
the
the
coastline.
coastline off.
20 miles off of Long
Yeah,
Island.
but there are moves to put offshore wind in the Great Lakes. Actually, not off the coast of.
Well, I know there's
New York.
something going on in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yep.
New York State has asked the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to consider identifying and leasing at least 4 new wind energy areas off New York's Atlantic coast, and it submitted an area for consideration to locate the new wind energy areas. Each would be capable of accommodating at least 800 megawatts of offshore wind.
We're going to start on one of them pretty quickly, the South Fork Wind Farm. It's going to be the first one.
Yep.
Deepwater Wind is developing it, and it's going to begin more than 20 miles from shore, so you're not going to be able to see it from the shore.
You know, I don't object to these things being seen from shore.
Yeah, but a lot of local people do.
I don't know.
I mean, people see windmills, and they cower in fear. I think they're kind of neat.
I do too. I do too.
I do too, but you know, there's no scientific evidence that there's a problem with them for human health. There is scientific evidence that there's severe problems with the things that they replace.
Well, yeah, but we're not allowed to talk about
Yes, we
that.
are. It's all fossil fuels. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, October 4th, and we've got an item from Renews, and I'll put the
We've
picture
got
for
a
that up
picture
too.
here, yeah.
There is an
Nice-
offshore
nice
wind farm.
picture. This is what an offshore wind farm looks like.
Scary, isn't it?
Ugly too.
What can you say?
EU, the European Union, offshore, sets 264 gigawatts record.
Wow.
They're producing a lot of
Right.
electricity.
On
They
October
are.
2nd, European wind farms set a production record. According to data from Wind Europe, offshore wind farms generated 265 gigawatt hours and onshore wind farms provided another 1,235 gigawatt hours. The total combined 1,499 gigawatt hours covered 18.2% of electricity demand. It was enough electricity to provide for 151 million homes, or 51% of the average industrial demand of Europe.
So they're getting on the ball there, aren't they?
Now, can you see those from the shore?
Some of them you can.
You know, it's,
I think about this, and I think about a wind turbine that was put up right in a community, I think it was in the Netherlands.
Oh, yeah.
One wind turbine.
Oh.
Just one wind turbine. They decided they were going to put up one wind turbine, and it was going to provide electricity for those people who subscribed to it.
it was a cooperative.
It was a cooperative, and they put this up to be crowd-funded, and it cost $1.5 million, and from the time that they put it up, the crowdfunding up to be done, to the time when they had all of the money they needed to install it, less than 24 hours.
Wow.
And this is from people who were around wind turbines. They knew what they were all like, and they wanted one in their community.
Yeah. There was a poster of one, I'm not sure whether it was Germany or it was this one, where they were explaining it was a cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
And in one picture it said, "We own it."
Yes.
And the other picture was some other company owns it.
Yeah.
They own it.
Which would you? They own it.
And was that the thing that was shown up here in SIT a couple
Yeah.
of years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the difference between a community being happy with wind turbines and a community being unhappy with wind turbines, and the difference was who owns it.
Right. Yeah.
Just it's that simple.
Well,
Okay.
lots of times you don't think of the economic benefits of having a wind turbine
Mm-hmm.
in your town.
Right.
I mean, they pay a lot in taxes.
Oh.
Well,
Just ask the folks. in
Even if they're
New
selling
Hampshire.
the wind somewhere else, they're still paying a lot in taxes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Our next item comes from Clean Technica.
Oh, this is an interesting article. I love this one. World's first solar-powered indoor vertical farm.
This is astonishing. Metropolis Farms has constructed a 500 kilowatt solar array made up of 2003 solar panels on the roof of a building in Philadelphia. Okay, so what's the big deal with that? On the 4th floor of the building, it is constructing a vertical farm that will be powered entirely by electricity from the roof. It plans to grow the equivalent of 660 outdoor acres worth of crops in less than 100,000 square feet.
Now, that's very interesting.
It is.
That's very interesting.
And one of the things that was interesting was this 4th floor apparently was open.
Well, it's a warehouse.
It's a warehouse.
And nothing was there.
And the thing in the article
Oh,
said the
wow.
only thing growing there was pigeons.
Yeah.
This is what they're going to grow there. Tomatoes, strawberries, lettuce, broccoli, and herbs.
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 Herbs. Oibs.
What to do with all those vacant warehouses?
Man, it's crazy. And it reminds me a little
Wow.
bit of a story that I read, and this was, I think when I was in college. It might have been 50 years ago. But I read a story, I think it was in the New York Times, about an office building in Tokyo. And they had a solar tracker on the roof. And the tracker captured light, and the light was sent down optical cables to a huge room in the middle of this building. And the idea was they wanted to light the room with solar light if they could.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of the room was a tomato plant. And the tomato plant had been there for a number of years at the time the article was written, and was producing something like 1,600 pounds of fruit every year. It never saw.
I always thought tomato plants were annuals.
No, they're not. They're not annuals. They're from South America, and in areas that don't freeze, they are perennials, and you can keep them in. I've known people who've had tomato plants that they kept from year to year. But you have to keep them indoors.
Yeah.
Well, the significance of this is significant.
The significance of this is significant. That I can believe.
Local food is more nutritious than food that's packed in a truck and travels for weeks.
Absolutely.
Duh. It tastes better, and growing food in the communities where it's eaten helps stimulate the economy.
Yep.
And one thing you don't mention is a dramatic decrease in the amount of pesticides.
Oh yeah. There's
Big time.
there is one thing about this that bothers me, and that is, David. What is his name? Zuckerman,
The way
Yeah.
the
Lieutenant
Lieutenant Governor. I got that right. I keep
Yep.
thinking
Yeah.
Zuckerberg,
No,
but it's
Zuckerman.
Zuckerman. Mentioned that hydroponics is not something that he would allow to qualify for organic, regardless of how it's fertilized.
Well, he's got a point.
And he does have a point, and I believe this is being done hydroponically, but I'm not sure.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
So
hydroponic.
I think, David Zuckerman might have a point about, and there may be,
Technically, he's correct.
yeah, and I think that,
But it may not be significant.
I don't know, it's certainly, I would think, less significant than the idea of trucking the thing from Mexico, if
Oh, I
you're
hear
talking
you.
about
I'm with you
lettuce.
there.
Okay, our last item
last item,
coming
yeah.
up, it's from Aberdeen Evening Express.
The Scottish government announces a fracking ban. Ta-da!
All right.
The Scottish Energy
Oh,
Minister confirmed that the government will ban fracking in Scotland, adding that the government must make decisions in the best interest of Scotland as a whole. The decision follows extensive consultation and consideration of potential impact. Scotland has had a moratorium on fracking since January of 2015. And
Well,
by the way,
they took a poll here. They got 60,000 responses, 99% of which were opposed to fracking.
yeah,
So the Scottish people,
the Scottish
not
people,
big on fracking.
it's interesting. They don't mind wind turbines, but by golly, they don't want fracking.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I can understand why.
How about you tell us?
Well, fracking is not good for you. It's not good for your children.
Bottom line.
Bottom line, you can have, you're drilling into rocks underground. How do you know what you're going to do down there?
Well, that's one of the problems.
You're doing
We already
horizontal
know
drilling.
that some of the things they're doing
They release
has
gas. They
bad side effects.
It
like
bad
earthquakes.
side effects. Earthquakes, yeah. Oklahoma is now the earthquake capital of the country.
And they never had them before.
They had one earthquake that anybody someplace could feel about every 10 months prior to fracking. Now they're having earthquakes at a rate of about 3 a day of that magnitude. That's,
That's significant.
it's significant.
Significant
Well, we've got to
significance.
get going. And so
All
I am
right.
going to,
Let's get everybody up here so we
let's
can wave
do
goodbye.
that. So let's just wave goodbye. Join us next time. Hope you have a great week.
The world. The birds in the trees don't know what's coming. Little foxes playing by their dens don't know. The apple trees sleeping in the orchard are unaware. Change has fallen upon us. We lose more and more with every delay. The good news is we're all in this together, and when we see we're together, we can work things out. We are the agents of changes we see in the world. We can make things better, but we can fail. The birds in the trees don't know what's coming. Little foxes playing by their dens don't know. The apple trees sleeping in the orchard are unaware. Change has fallen upon us. We lose more and more with every delay. We are the agents of changes we see in the world. We can make things better, but we can fail. all in this together. And when we see we're together,